Hey everybody, welcome to Sunday Stories with Coach Mike Young, episode 5. This episode we're going to talk about my last day outside before I went in the hospital when I was 14. Alright, many of you know I had a heart transplant when I was 14 years old, and I was in the hospital for 7 months. I don't know the exact time that I was in there waiting, but I was in the hospital. I was at Glendale, Venice for about, I think, 10 days. I was there for about 10 days, and then I got transferred to Children's Hospital, and I was there. And I eventually got my transplant, and I stayed another like 2 or 3 weeks. So in total, it was, 7 months that I was in the hospital. But the last day I was out was, for me, the way I remember it was very interesting. So at that time, I barely got sick. I barely got sick about a little over a month when I started feeling sick. And at that time, we were going, to doctor's appointments, ERs. My mom was taking me everywhere. We were dealing with all these different people giving us like advice about, drink this, do this, and it's something else I'm going to talk about later. But so the last day, at this point, I was very sick, very weak. I remember me and my mom, we ended up going to, if you go down Colorado, in between Eagle Rock and South Pasadena, or Pasadena, there's a little park. Me and my mom went over there. I remember we just, we parked. It wasn't far. I probably had to walk about 20 feet, maybe 30. I'm not sure. We sat on a little bench. We just, hung out. We're outside in this, it was a nice day. And, I was just real weak. She brought an apple for me. I was eating an apple. Didn't really eat too much of it. And, I know how worried my mom was because, she was doing everything she could, try to get me better. And just, we weren't figuring out what was wrong with me. And, again, I'll go back to that in another episode where, all the different things we did and what the doctors were telling us and what was going on. But, so this day we ended up going back to the car. I remember it was hard for me just to walk, that distance. And when we got back to my house, my uncle was there. And, I remember he was, at that point, everybody knew I was sick. But again, not knowing what was wrong with me. And, we're at my house. And I remember, in a Latino family, everybody uses Vicks. So it's like, get some Vicks, clear airways, and let's do some, it'll help you out. And it was my Uncle Nelson. He was at the house. And this is just what I remember, I don't remember the whole day exactly, but, at that point, he was there. And I guess he was talking with my mom, and I was just, so weak. We're trying to, do different things. And at one point, they decided that they were going to take me to Glendale, Venice, to the ER at Glendale, Venice. And at that point, I was so weak, I couldn't make it from my front porch to the car that was parked right in front of the street. And this must be 20 feet. He had to help me. We had like 4 or 5 stairs. We had to go down, and they had to help me into the help me to the car. And we went we drove to the ER. We live in Eagle Rock, and Glendale, Venice is right down the street. It's not far. And I remember when we got there, one of my best friends, Jesse, his brother's girlfriend. I don't know if it was his girlfriend at the time or ex-girlfriend. She was she worked in the admitting office at the hospital, and we knew each other. I mean, not great. Like I was, the younger brother's friend, but we knew each other, and Kathy. Her name was Kathy. Hey, Kathy, and I was just real sick, and then they found a bed for me, and I remember being at the hospital, and it was my uncle. I think my uncle was still with us for a while. My mom, my dad, and my sister. And at one point, they already found a bed for me. I went up. They're starting to do some tests, but not really like the crazy tests that they did in the next couple of days. And I remember my sister and my dad ended up going to the house because at that point they decided they're going to keep me at the hospital. And they went back to my house to get me some clothes and stuff, because we weren't expecting to stay at the ER, because at that point we were going to many ERs, many doctor's appointments, and they always just said, "Oh, you're fine, you go home. Oh, you're fine, you go home." So, at Glendale Adventist, they actually they saw how sick I was. They kept me, and that's when they really started doing the test that they found out what was wrong with me, and we moved forward from there. It was a crazy day. Like I remember it because me and my mom didn't hang out like that. Like we didn't go just sit at the park, and talk. And I don't remember what we talked about. And I remember coming back. My uncle at that point, I don't think he lived in Eagle Rock anymore. I think he moved out to Upland. And so for him to be there was kind of out of the ordinary. But my family was pretty close. It was pretty close. And then just I don't know what the conversation was that they had, but they decided we're going to take you to another ER and we're going to see if they find something. And at that point, that was the last day that I was outside of a hospital for 7 months. And when I talk about being in the hospital, I wasn't able to walk around too much. I was basically stuck to a bed for the most part, not completely. And I had, when I first got there, I had, 10 IVs hooked up to me. Then eventually I had the LVAD, and then, surgery after surgery after, surgery. And then it was, finally the transplant that, took. Everybody has a different experience, waiting for a transplant, and that was just my experience. It was about 6 months, 5 months, because you're on the transplant list and you're off the transplant list depending on how sick you are, what's going on. And when we finally left, it was a big deal, for me and my family, my friends, and I'll talk about that later on. But it was a day I won't forget. I remember it so when my parents, going back, sorry, when my parents, my dad and my sister went back to the house, they ended up seeing my best friend. I had two best friends, Richard and Jesse, and my friend Jesse ended up coming back with them to the hospital the very first day I was at the hospital. And I'm going to talk about them in the next video, my two closest friends, my support system. I'm going to talk about my support system, which, my two closest friends, my mom, my dad, my sister, my family, and all of that. It's going to, I'll share that story. But my best friend, Jesse, he showed up with them the day that, the first day I was at the hospital, and he was there with me, and my other friend Richard were there, and my sister, my dad, all the same people were there with me throughout the whole thing. But that was the first time I think think my mom spent the night at the hospital. I don't remember, but especially I think the first day she spent the night. But it was one of those things that day changed my life, without a doubt. You never know what's going to happen, so all I could say about that is, that was a day that sticks with me. I remember certain parts of it very vividly, and it was like, like people say, once Caesar crossed the Rubicon, everything changed. For me, that was the day that really changed my life, because nothing was the same after that. And my life just altered drastically from that point on, because like I talked about in the previous episode, I never realized how sick I was. It took me a while, even when I was in the hospital. So my last day before, I was in the hospital for that long a period of time at once. It was a day that really, changed my life. What I learned from it, I learned that you never know what's going to happen. Things change drastically, very fast, and you got to be ready. Just like recently, a lot of when I got told I had cancer, and stuff happens fast. What I hope everybody takes from it is, live your life, carpe diem, live it to the fullest. We never know what's going to happen. I hope you guys, get that. And I try not to forget it. There's so many things like, I don't talk about it much, but I don't know what happened to my donor. I don't know what tragedy happened, but from seconds, and that day that they passed away saved my life, and I'm eternally grateful for that person, their family, and I'm beyond blessed. God has been with me this whole time, and He's still with me, and I just hope I'm living up a good life, and I hope you guys enjoy my stories that I'm sharing with you. So that's my story. Number 5, my last day outside of the hospital before I was in there for a long period of time. We never know what's going to happen. Take advantage of our days that we have here, and stay blessed. Thank you all for listening, and please like and subscribe, leave some comments. Have a good night.